I was adopted when I was about 1.5 years old. My parents were looking for another child. My mom couldn't have any more children. She was pregnant at the time, but it wasn't going to carry to term, so she was looking at getting another option of still having children because it would be her first child. They looked into adoption. They met me in Guatemala. Christmas of '82, I was brought here stateside, and I've lived here ever since. I was born in a different country, that I am a citizen of the United States because of adoption. My ability to be an American is a gift given to me, that I'm from a third world country. I have another biological family that I've never met, that never had the opportunities of being a citizen, of knowing the privilege of the first world country. They literally are a third world people. My father was a Navy veteran in Vietnam. My aunt, his sister, was an Army veteran also, was a cook in the Army. And their older brother was also an Army veteran. I forget his specialty. My aunt's husband was also a combat medic in Vietnam and saw a lot of action there, unfortunately, and it's important. Especially knowing what the world was like in the United States during that time period, how they were basically hated for doing their job. I was on the deck, the pool deck at the YMCA. I was on the morning shift. I came in there about 6 o'clock in the morning, and I remember looking out at the from the aquatics deck, the exercise room, and seeing it on the TVs. Like all the TVs changed over to immediately filming and recording that, and I saw it, and I thought it was a movie or some kind of preview for a movie, and I walked over there, looked, and opened the door to see what it was, and then I realized that this was an actual event occurring live on TV. And I remember seeing the second tower get hit as the plane flew into it, as it was just filmed live, and I turned around, blew the whistle, and cleared the pool, basically telling everybody the nation was being attacked at this time, and this is what was going on if anybody wanted to know and see what was going on. Kind of cleared the deck so nobody would drown in case I wasn't paying attention, because it completely took me out of where I was. I'd heard of an attack like Pearl Harbor. I'd heard of Beirut in '85, but I had never lived through an event. I knew I was watching history occur. And it was surreal. It was like watching a dream, a movie, and it made me really angry to know that somebody was stupid enough to attack my nation. I served in Okinawa, Japan as my duty station, but previous to that, stateside, I was in Great Lakes, Illinois for basic training and hospital corps school, and then I went down to North Carolina for field medical training, which is basically the school that teaches Navy hospital corpsmen to integrate with the Marine Corps, the infantry aspect of what they do and how they do their basic fundamental infantry movements so that we can operate with them on actual operations. Did that, and I transferred later on to Portsmouth, Virginia for the Naval Hospital School there for surgical technician. From there, I left and went to 3rd Marine Division, Okinawa, Japan. I was the second most north base, Camp Schwab, part of the 3rd Marine Division's actual infantry unit and combat engineers section with that. My job was a hospital corpsman. I basically took care of any Marines in the battalion anytime we did field operations for training or actual operations. Did that. Just worked inside the actual battalion aid station, which is like the clinic that we have. I did file paperwork. I did actually take patients in, do the immunizations, the shots that they would have, maintain their records for dental. Anytime that they would actually have a platoon that would go out for a training operation, if I was attached to that platoon, I would go with them, spend the time in the field, live with them as they would do. Any of the training they would do, I'd learn also on the side just to figure out how to do it, integrate with them more. But my main purpose was to maintain their medical readiness and dental readiness as need be. I definitely loved being doc, as they call us. It was one of those things that you earn the title every day, that you're the guy that they're going to look to when everything hits the fan, and you're not just there for the Band-Aid, you're there to listen to the stories of what's going on back at home. You're the big brother, you're the father, you're the priest, you're everything to these guys. And so it took a lot out of you, but it was rewarding because you got to see these men grow, and you knew that you were helping them in a way that it's not by the book per se, but it's just deeper. It's a greater good to the people who are doing their job, with their job stressful enough in the Marine Corps. And you got to help them maintain that and be able to be good men about it and do well. I got to learn my job as a Navy corpsman to do medicine, to practice medicine firsthand via these guys. So they got to suffer through some of our mess ups, our foul ups, and I got to learn their job, the weapon systems, the way they do tactics, to learn what it is to be a Marine. I got to basically do both worlds. You know, it was great. What was it like being in Afghanistan at first? Overwhelming, kind of like, wow, we're really here. I figured we'd get shot at the first second we got there. There was nothing like that. We touched down in Bagram Air Force Base out there. It was still wintertime. We touched down in, I want to say, the 3rd of January 2006, and we were snowed in. We weren't going anywhere. There was too much snow to go anywhere, do anything. So we stayed there for a couple of days till we could get a clear flight out to go to our actual FOBs, forward operating bases. I was stationed at FOB Jalalabad. That was my main duty station there. When we could fly out, we flew out. Other than that, Bagram itself was just like being back stateside. It had a big PX, they had the hard buildings, everything, hard structures. There was a Burger King, a McDonald's. It was kind of weird. I was like, am I really in a foreign country? I can go get McDonald's or Burger King? It's weird. I even got Popeyes. That was trippy. But reality would soon hit. We would actually touch down on the FOBs we were at, where I'd live in a B hut, which is basically plyboard walls and a plyboard roof and outhouses to go to the bathroom in. So it was initially a shock, definitely a culture shock. I'd been to the field before, but it was just like that. So I was part of a special attachment that would go out and look for IEDs. That's what I did. It was part of the headquarters company area that we would go out. The rest of the platoon was situated out to the actual infantry platoons and squads. We had the Marines who would individually break off to do that, but I was in charge of like a group of like 7 that medically I would maintain them, go out on missions with them. The battalion's mission was basically to go out and find the enemy and any IEDs that they had so we could maintain taking back the lands from the insurgency, pushing back the enemy so they had nowhere to run. That was the last infantry battalion to do it. That's what we were. We were the last actual infantry battalion for that specific. Every time I walked outside of that gate, every time I rode outside of that gate, I had responded to IEDs and after actions of them, what the damage would do, how it would maim, destroy, and kill people. I knew that if I got hit by an IED, that was it. There's nothing more. RPGs, things like that. I knew that at any time you could die. It wasn't a once in a while feeling. It was in every moment that I stepped outside of that wire. If I was on the base, I felt safer, but I also knew that was just kind of a situational safety. You know, the difference between being behind something that's bulletproof and being shot at, as opposed to just being in a place where you're not being shot at. There's extreme differences in safety, but yeah, a lot of times I felt like I could die at any moment. First time we took contact, I definitely felt like I was gonna die. We almost got hit by an RPG directly and we got lucky and it missed us, like by a hair's breadth. We took some combat casualties. We did take some training casualties and just actual accidents that killed a couple of people. John Freilish, he was killed in action February 6th, 2006. And that was a hard day for all of us because we expect Marines to die. We know that they're going to, and we know that that's our job to protect and to bring them home, dead or alive, but you don't expect one of your own to die. I was hitting the go button on my life, literally. I felt like I was alive, the most one getting shot at, one getting mortared, you know, that close to death. And the day that I ended up losing 4 of my soldiers during an IED attack, it really wrecked my life. I'm not going to lie about that. That's always going to be with me. But I know that it's also made me stronger too. I watched a local national who is a Muslim, knowing that we're Christians, we're Americans, we're the infidel, we're the Satan, and run up with his daughter and say, save my daughter, basically. And I've watched him have that faith, knowing that one of us is a Christian, and one of us is an atheist, and one of us is a Taoist. But having the faith to know, hey, I believe in you enough that I'm going to have faith that you're going to take care of us, and you're going to protect me, and you're going to save us. I've watched that. I've seen the best of humanity. I've watched people that I know that they want me dead, but I've saved their lives. I've watched over them. As a unit, Combat Assault Battalion did get a volunteer award for helping local nationals with English and learning how to speak English better. Personal awards, I did get a combat action ribbon, a few other ribbons for different things that I have done. The unit that I went with, 1st Battalion, 3rd Marines, did get the meritorious unit commendations, the Navy unit commendations, and a joint meritorious unit commendation. So there was a lot of things because of the way we all integrated as military, Army, Navy, and Air Force, Marine Corps. We actually did get a lot of different awards for that, for Afghanistan. I knew I was back in the United States. I knew I was back in quote-unquote safe area, but I didn't feel safe. I felt so weird, like just almost like dreamlike, because I was still looking for dangers. I was still looking for what was out there. Was anything safe? I knew that everybody back here was worried about something like the Kardashians or some other just junk that didn't matter. I couldn't figure out why nobody cared about what was going on in Afghanistan. And like day-to-day life there literally is life and death. Yet over here people are caring so much about their iPhone. Oh, I didn't get this app, or this little first world problems going on that doesn't mean jack shit, excuse my English, in the big picture. But here I know what it's like to literally not know if I'm taking that next breath. So it was kind of surreal to me, and it was kind of, it was hard. It was hard to take anything serious around me, or anybody serious around me who had not lived and breathed that. I didn't really want to be around people. I felt like I was coming back to a foreign country. The idea that America that I left and defended for, when I came back to it, was so different, so not what I was expecting, not what I wanted, I guess. Pretty much it seemed like she was ungrateful to what we were doing. Dealing with the fact of being a combat veteran, everything I've seen and dealt with, nobody around me understood that. They couldn't understand it. They didn't want to understand it. They just wanted to go back to the ignorance of the first world problems that they had. And I felt like I was drowning by myself. I felt like I was just dead inside. I wasn't healthy, mentally or emotionally. I had to learn to deal with me and deal with my own demons from having been overseas, prior service in the military and in combat. I really messed a lot of things up that if I could go back now, I would try to fix, but it made me a better person now that I look at it, now that I see the times that I fell down, the drinking, the stupidity, the alcoholism with that. I had to suffer through all that in order to see what the real problem was, and know that I can get through this, that I needed the help. I needed to ask other veterans who had been there for that help, because the VA wasn't ready. The VA just gave you a pill or said, oh, we'll talk to you every once in a while, but we're just going to leave you there. It took other veterans who had been there also to walk with me, to jump in the holes with me and say, okay, we're going to make it through this. I'd like to add that veterans coming back, not all of us are these crazy PTSD riddled, gonna blow up something or go gun crazy. We're not. We're just men and women who have served. We've done our job. Some of what we've seen has rattled our cage, has scarred our soul. We're damaged in that way, but we're not damaged where we can't function, that we're not normal people. We just want to live our lives, be normal people, be loved like everybody else, not ridiculed, not, oh, well, he's a veteran, he might go do something crazy. No, we're just men and women. As far as now, what I'd like to pursue is to get at least my master's in psychology so I could become a counselor, work with veterans, and try to work and see what we can do to help those who are still suffering with PTSD, that we can find means of treating them, helping them, know that they don't have to suffer this alone by themselves. As far as children graduating high school and military service, I have a Spartan viewpoint of it, I guess, in a way that I think everybody should serve their nation, male or female, for a minimum of 3 years in order to earn their citizenship, to know what it is that you're just being given by birth. Because most citizens here are just born citizens. They don't know anything else. They've never had to suffer or earn that citizenship. I was born in a foreign country. I was given my citizenship by being granted citizenship, by being adopted. I could have still stayed in that third world country and just suffered through that and never having had an education. I'm educated because of the benefits of being an American citizen.